If I could sort of move on, the next question we've really got, continuing on very much a contemporary theme, is again something which is often a question fired at Muslims. You know, it's one of those age-old, growing up here in the West, I've heard it 101 times, and that's probably on the conservative side of estimates. It's that question about drinking alcohol. And the question we've got in is from Paul Johnson in Birmingham. Thanks very much, Paul, for your question. And you asked a simple question: why is drinking prohibited in Islam? And you make and give the acceptance, which is you agree that excessive drinking is harmful and can lead to both health and social problems. But sensible drinking, says Paul, is acceptable in all societies, yet it is completely forbidden in Islam. Why is that? Imam Sahib, perhaps if you can start with that question.
Well, I think one quick response to this question comes to my mind, that as he has mentioned that excessive drinking may be harmful, but the initial drinking is not. But my point is, according to the Islamic teaching, actually smaller things lead to bigger things. A simple one, bag of drinking, then it goes further. And the point is that people actually, after drinking a little bit, then they wish to have more, generally speaking. Although the very first taste of a drink may not be very pleasant, but at the encouragement of the people around the drinker, they say, well, please try more, and then he starts drinking. And you never know when you are going to cross that limit. And a person who starts from a very little quantity, eventually he ends up as an excessive drinker. So this is one of the harm here. It is like something which pulls a person up, and he becomes more and more advanced in that one, and ends up as an excessive drinker. That is one of the problems, and other problems are also there, of course.
It's quite clear it's evolving in society. Mahdi Sahib, I mean, even Western governments now, whether you're here in the United Kingdom, in the US, in Canada, all the governments from a political agenda are trying to tackle this thing about excessive drinking, and it's particularly prevalent in Western societies in the youth. I mean, from that perspective, do you think that if you like, the political class is now recognizing this is an intrinsic problem for society?
I don't think anybody is serious about it. They were serious about smoking, and look what they have done. It was, not conceivable that you will have a flight and nobody is smoking, and in the whole building you can't smoke, and now perhaps on the whole street you can't smoke. But about drinking, the governments are addicted to those tax dollars which they want to make. I have talked to, for example, the finance minister of Ontario, our province in Canada, and he said that we are making so much money from not only from
tax on alcohol,
the revenue from the alcohol, but also from the gambling. Okay. And they say that this is a source of revenue, and the irony is that they make money and then they spend on the social problems and policing, and I can prove you with the data that how many people are killed on the street because of drunk driving. And a person can play havoc with the family, and then they lose the breadwinner, and nobody wants to talk about this. And that is why Islam has said that, first of all, Islam says that there are advantages in alcohol and gambling, and there are disadvantages, but the disadvantages are more than the advantages. And that is a rule that wherever the disadvantages are more, you should leave it, and it will be forbidden.
I mean, it is a social evil. I mean, one of the notes that often when you're talking with friends of yours who are non-Muslim, and unfortunately I would say with those who in some quarters are Muslims not within the community but further afield, other Muslims, I'm sure many experienced it at university. The counter argument, or rather amusingly, which is sometimes used is, well, Tariq, it allows you to get rid of your inhibitions. You'll do things that you wouldn't do otherwise. And to my mind, thinking through logically, that's a good reason for not taking, or partaking of alcohol.
Exactly. If you look at some expressions we use, they say money is the root of all evils. Well, maybe money having or not having is the root of all evils, but there's one expression of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he said that drinking is Qabaith, that it is the mother, the source of so many evils. And already we have discussed as a panel some of those evils. And this idea of having no inhibitions and being free in a society to do whatever you wish at whatever time and whatever age even. You have some places where they're giving alcohol to very, very young children, even though it may be illegal in society, because they think, let them enjoy a little sip of my cocktail or my beer and these type of things, as if it's very innocent pleasures. And it's a social way of being, happy and free.
Yeah, that is used a lot, isn't it? It's a social thing.
It's a social concept.
Yeah.
And yet they don't realize that in the process of socialization, there are other consequences, and these are the evils that come out of it, as has been mentioned. I can just list a few of them. I have a very old survey, but here are some of the very basic things that come from drinking. It says that from drinking, 2 times the usual death rate in men based on drinking, and 3 times the usual rate in women, those who do drink. A definite evil. Again, 6 times the usual suicide rate. And also alcohol is the major factor in 4 leading causes of death. Now, if society just wants to control some of its major problems, one would think that let's control drinking. Anyone who knows a family that has been influenced by someone amongst them who's caught up in alcoholism, they understand right now what are the evils. The man comes home, the woman comes home, family's affected, jobs affected, the health is affected because now he goes to the hospital with so many internal diseases. It's a major impact from the evils that is produced from this one innocent so-called social pleasure in drinking. Yes.
So I mean, as we've discussed, it's not only there's the obvious things. Mahdi Sahib, you talked about issues around car accidents, but it's deeper than that. The health problems that come from it, family breakdown, social economic breakdown as well. How do we counter this? I mean, Mahdi Sahib, you talked about the tax dollars which are derived from this income. If we were advising, we were in a place where governments or were asking Islam from the Islamic perspective, what is the solution? Are we
complete prohibition period?
Okay. Well, that I think is crystal, absolutely crystal clear.
The violence in the family and the wife battering and all these are all the results of alcohol and other intoxicants.
Going back to the harms of drinking, I think whatever I learned from the experience of others or read in the books or the press, I can say that that draws my mind always to the word used in the Holy Quran is khamr. That means, in simple English, something which covers, and that actually refers to covering the abilities and the faculties of one's mind. So individually and collectively, take the example of an individual. When he drinks and then gradually becomes the excessive drinker, as a result of this use of alcohol, the mental faculties which lead a person to make the right judgment, those faculties are impaired. And just imagine a person who is a heavy drinker and making the decision about the fate of his nation next morning. Do you think that person will be fit enough to take such decisions? So that happens. Yeah. I mean, it's one example which I have just mentioned like that. But take the case of all the people in a certain society drinking at night and in the morning making the decisions about the fate of their nation. So that happens on the family level, on your social level, national level, international level. So that is one very fine point mentioned in the Holy Quran, that actually it affects the mental abilities. And particularly man is known for this ability of making the right judgment, what is good and what is bad. So if that faculty is impaired, I think that is a big loss. And that is what the result of the drinking is.
Jazakallah. Well, Paul, I think, again, this is a subject which we could talk quite exhaustively on, but I think we've covered a lot of a range of issues as to why it is harmful and why it's prohibited in Islam and in any sense, totally discouraged. Whether you talk about the economic problems, the social problems, family breakdown, health, social economic costs. I think Mahdi Sahib talked about the downside and the upside. Well, the downside is pretty down. So I think, Paul, I hope we've answered your question there. Again, if there's subsequent questions that arise, please do write in to us. And for other viewers as well, just as a reminder of the email, it's faithmatters, one word, at mta.tv. That's faithmatters, one word, at mta.tv. And for those of you resorting to the fax number once again, here in the UK, it's 44-208-687-8037. I'll repeat that again, it's 44 for the UK, 208-687-8037.